Now, here's my, yes. I will be taking questions, but here, I have to start, see, so I know how long I've been blathering on. And I made notes. Don't worry, you won't be graded. I'm in the English voice cast of the latest Miyazaki film. I did Castles in the Sky for him many years ago, and I saw Boy and the Heron, and it's indescribable. So I mean, I'm not going to try and talk about it. I do hope you see it. It transports you to a world that you've never experienced before, and it really got me. It's emotional. It's funny. It's some of the actors in the voice cast. Christian Bale is in it. Gemma Chan, Florence Pugh, Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson. Replaced an Elephant Man. I replaced an Amadeus. Well, no, I did the first national tour of Amadeus. We had done Los Angeles, San Francisco, Baltimore, and Chicago, and I was supposed to go to Boston, and then instead they said, no, we're going to put you in the Broadway show. So, very unusual experience. When you do a play that long, you get to know the fellow cast members, and then you have 2 days off, and you go on. It's like an episode of The Twilight Zone where everyone's different. Your wife is not your wife, your kids aren't your kids. But I went in, and Andrea Romano was the voice director, and I said, oh, I can't even remember what I did at the audition. She said, relax, we have your recordings, you will play it back. Oh, okay. So, what I'm leading to is that once that was a great success, this whole new opening came available to me, because in voiceover, they don't care what you look like. They cast with their ears, not with their eyes. So you're able to play characters that you never get on camera. And you could use dialects, because, basically the law in Hollywood is only Meryl Streep is allowed to do accents. So I was never asked to do Australian or Irish or anything until voiceover. And like I say, it was so liberating, because I love the idea of not being seen. You're able to, it frees you in a way where you can take chances that you would never take if the camera was on you. And the voiceover community is just one of the most talented and gracious and welcoming I've done theater, I've done television, I've done movies. Once they see that you're not a prima donna, you don't have a bodyguard and a minder or a chauffeur, that you're there, ready to work just like they are, and it took, within days, they knew that I was one of them. And like I say, these are some of the most talented people I've ever worked with in any medium, and they're so entertaining. I mean, I would go to sessions. It didn't matter, whether it was regular show or what's the one, the Time Squad with Pamela Adlon and Rob Paulson, where they're so funny. I laugh so hard because they can do all the time. Maurice LaMarche does. It's not like Orson Welles. It is Orson Welles. He's in Peaky the Brain. He plays Brain. But that was a turning point. it was like, getting laughs. That was really big and important to me. So anyway, I come back from my brother's wedding. I get cast in this wannabe off-Broadway show. And in the audience, he came to see Lauren Bogus, who was in the cast, and Gil Bogus was her father, and her father worked for Neil Diamond, so it was a showbiz connection. And he saw the show several times, and I would go over to Laurie's house, and he said, if you're serious about this, I said, oh, I'm really serious. He said, well, I can introduce you to a couple of people that might help you get an agent. So Lauren would come in, and we'd do a dramatic scene from The Subject Was Roses, a play I saw on the road when I was living in Washington, D.C. See, my guest star is ready to come on now. If you saw my tweet, you know there's a guest star coming on at the end. So I saw the show with Martin Sheen and Jack Alverson, and it was a good dramatic scene, and she would read with me, and then I would do a monologue from You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, playing Snoopy, which I had played in high school. And, you know, here's the World War II, you know, I'd sit on the floor and do this thing. So I'd show drama and comedy. And from that, I did get an agent. And that was the first summer I was there, I did the show. Before Christmas, I had met with agents, and by February of the next year, I had an agent, and they started sending me out after school. I went to LACC, and I had to take full units because I could have been drafted because Vietnam was going on. I thought I'd not be really good at killing people, so, and I didn't understand why we were fighting in Vietnam. I don't want to get political. I want to state it just generalized subjects that we all agree with, like it's all right to eat pie for breakfast. We can all agree on that. And how many Frenchmen can't be wrong? You know, things that we can all agree on. But so, you know, they started saying to me, you know, you got to quit school because you got an offer to do this part. I mean, I did the Bill Cosby show one day. So you know, if you would get docked 1 unit for every class you missed. You could only miss so many classes or they drop you. To make a long story short, that first summer, 1970, after I got there, I got 3 shows. And I finished college. After 2 years, instead of going to a 4-year university, I was getting enough work, I started doing TV and stuff. To make a long story short, eventually, I've done 9 months on a soap opera. I did, I don't know, maybe 35 guest stars on different shows, about 9 TV movies, and then I heard about this movie, Star Wars. So I went in and I met with Brian De Palma. He was casting for Carrie, and there was a little guy with him with a beard who never spoke. Brian said, where are you from? And I talked and talked and talked. And when I left, it was a cattle call. You know, they were seeing guys that could play Luke, guys that could play Han Solo. So it was 50, 60 people there, all milling about. And when I left, I said, who was Brian De Palma's assistant, that little guy that didn't talk? They said, no, that's George Lucas. Because I'd seen American Graffiti. It's still one of my favorite movies ever. Yeah, and, but I'm not going to get into stories, because I mean, everyone's heard the story that I didn't read the whole script until I got the part, which is shocking, you know? I mean, I'll never forget sitting down, and after only reading the scene, it was a scene in the cockpit with Han Solo. You've all heard this story, right? No? Basically, what happened is, so I go in and I'm trying to get a feel for it. I couldn't get a feel for what this was. I said to George, I said, is this sort of like a parody of Flash Gordon? Is it like a Mel Brooks look at science fiction? He goes, well, let's just do it and we'll talk about it later. Translation? Let's just do it and we'll never talk about it. Never. George doesn't like hearing about motivation and backstories. He's a real filmmaker. He really comes alive in the editing room, not so much on set. You know, he'd tap Tony Way, which was our first AD, and Tony from the Royal Air Force would go, turn over! Because if George said, action, we wouldn't hear him. You know? He'd go, cut. And then Tony would go, cut it! So George was no help. I mean, at the audition. So I told to Harrison, you know, who's going to play Han Solo in the scene, and I knew him from American Graffiti, and he was like that because, you know, he didn't have he played Bob Falfa, but he made me laugh in just the short scene that he did. So he did like that. But I said to him, I said, you know, George, is this serious, or, you know? Hey, kid, let's just get it done. Whatever floats your boat. So he was no help either. So I thought, what the heck? The smartest decision I ever made was play it sincerely. Don't take it upon yourself to comment on the material, you know, do it as real as you can. So I did the scene, and a lot of times when you come out, you know, it's like when I auditioned for Texas Wheelers, I said, I really nailed it. I made the creator laugh. I mean, you could just feel that I did a good job. My agent said, how did it go? I said, I have no idea. I mean, I said the words. I didn't go up on my lines, but I don't know how it went. So some time goes by, and she calls and they say they want you for Star Wars. I said, really? And they said, yeah, they're going to send the script out, and you can read it as soon as they get it to you. And I'll never forget reading it. The front page said, "The Adventures of Luke Starkiller, as taken from the Journal of the Whills, Saga number 1, not 4, the Star Wars." So it starts like you know, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. You read this thing and I think, wait a second, because the feeling I got at the audition was that Harrison is a leading man. And in the scene, I was really annoying, you know. I was like this whiny little kid going, we can't turn back. That's an actual line. Chelsea will kill me for doing it again, but an actual line from the screen test is where he said, hey kid, I held up my part of the bargain. I'm dropping you and the droids off the minute I get the chance. And I say to him, but we can't turn back. Fear is their greatest defense. I doubt if the actual security there is any greater than it was on Aquilai or Sullust, and what there is most likely directed towards a large-scale assault. Now, when I broke it down, I said, you can diagram the sentence and make sense of it. But we can't turn back. Fear's their greatest defense. Yeah, that big, giant Death Star thing. I doubt the actual security there on the Death Star is any greater than it was on Aquilai or Sullust, 2 made-up planet names. And what there is most likely directed towards a large-scale assault. Meaning, yeah, in the Millennium Falcon, it's the size of a penny that can slip through. It all made sense. Now try saying it like it's coming into your mind for the first time spontaneously. It's like, oh my God, it's incredibly hard. Well, all I'm saying was, I figured then Harrison is the leading actor and I'm his sidekick, you know, like Buck Rogers and whoever his sidekick is. Who knows? But you know what I'm saying. So I'm reading this thing and I'm thinking, oh, Harrison must be Luke Starkiller. Yeah, that's it. And so I started reading it and I realized really early on, I went, oh, wow, it's seen through the eyes of this teenage farm boy. And Harrison's Han Solo, he doesn't come in until later. It was quite stunning. And now I forgot why I brought it up. I promised I wouldn't tell the same stories over and over, and I already broke my rule. Let me go back to this. Oh, yeah, I was talking about Squadron 42. Anyway. Chris Roberts. In 2015, Chris Roberts asked me to be in a new game called Squadron 42. And I worked on it for months and months and months. And again, it has amazing actors. Listen to the actors that are in Squadron 42. Gillian Anderson. Gary Oldman. Andy Serkis. Hold your applause to the end. Mark Strong. Jack Houston. John Rhys Davies. Liam Cunningham. I mean, it's just amazing cast. So I worked on that for months and months and months, and then, you know, we were done. Flash forward 8 years later. Now, in the interim, I'm seeing on the internet, this game's never coming out. From gamers, you know, and gaming magazines saying it's Chris Roberts' Fulton's Folly, it'll never come out. It's, you know, it was announced to come out 3 years ago, it's been 5 years. And I started like, well, maybe it isn't coming out. What do I know? I mean, you know, don't believe everything you read on the internet. But after many, many years, 6, 7 years go by, 8 years go by. By that time, I'm not thinking of it as it ever coming out. I get a call from Chris. He says, well, we're ready to finish your part. Are you out of your mind? It's been 8 years. I mean, there must be some clause in my contract. You know, when you sign a contract, it's not like you turn over your life. Or, you know, I love Chris and I'd do anything for him, but I said, how can this be? The thing with Chris is he is such a perfectionist, and technology improves every single day. So he's taking advantage of this new technology, and I thought that it had gone away and that he had stopped, but to make a long story short, I went back in. I did, I don't know how many, 2.5, maybe 3 weeks of 5 days. And this thing, I said, I you know, contacted him. I said, can I talk about it at this expo I'm going to? I won't if you don't want me to talk about it. He said, yeah, you can talk about it. Don't talk about when it's coming out. But it's feature finished. He's just, like I say, doing polishes on it. But when I went in to do the recent work, 8 years after I thought I'd finished, he's done it again. I mean, I'm not a gamer, but I've never seen anything like this. It's instead of cut movie scenes, the characters are computer generated, but they look just like us. Everybody that I mentioned looks like themselves, and it's going to be extraordinary. I know it's going to be, no pun intended, a real game changer. But that's, and by the way, as I said, can I talk about Squadron 54? And he said, yes, you can talk about Squadron 42. I must have been thinking about the studio, but so anyway, there's that. I just finished a week ago yesterday. I finished the second thing that I did with Mike Flanagan. It's called The Life of Chuck. Yeah, and it's based on a Stephen King story, but it's not a horror story. You know, remember, Stephen wrote things like The Body, which was made into Stand By Me. He does horror, but he also does, this is a very human story. It's highly original. The story is told backwards, Act 3, Act 2, Act 1. I'm only in Act 1, and you see Chuck at 4 different ages. You see Cody Flanagan, Mike's son, as I call him, Little Chuck. And then there's this young actor named Benjamin Pajak, who plays young Chuck. And then Jacob Tremblay plays teen Chuck, and Tom Hiddleston plays adult Chuck. Yeah. But I only work with 2 of them. I mean, well, I shouldn't give it away. But what I'm saying is, there's so many times that you work with these incredible actors. Like all those people I read you were in Squadron 42. I've never met any of them. I met Ian Duncan. He plays the player, so he's in every scene. But no, I met Andy Serkis. I haven't met Gary Oldman or Joe. Anyway, it's a funny business because, like in House of Usher, fingers crossed, it'll open a whole new career for me playing soulless, evil sociopaths. In fact, I said to Mike later, I said, that's really thinking outside the box. Why did you think of me playing this creepy, dead inside person? I don't know. He just said, I said, who would you, because my tendency is when people offer me something, and it drives my agent crazy, I said, oh, you know who'd really be good in that part? Peter McNichol. Peter McNichol would be perfect. And my agent say, moron, why do you keep suggesting other actors? And, you know, he came out to the house, Mike Flanagan, he came with Trevor Macy, the producer, and he gave me all these 8 scripts, and I read this thing, and like I say, I love doing things that I've never done before. And this thing was just so over the top, horrific. I mean, that second episode, Mask of the Red Death, I won't give it away, but there's a big rave party that goes seriously awry. And my wife's saying, oh, you should do it, you should do it. I said, you are such a hypocrite. She is the most squeamish thing. She doesn't like horror at all, okay? She loves a big crowd. Who knew? Look what I have. No, not you. Look what I have over here. Huh? Dance. Can you dance? I'm a soft touch, you know? You don't have to dance, just eat this. All right. So I'm supposed to wind it up, but they said I could go on a little longer if you want. By the way, it was... Let's pause. This is very important. There's a canine issue going on. Are we good to go? Okay, come on up here. Come on. Let me refer to my notes. See, I started going through and thinking, if they want to talk about my done in animation, I better go and see what I've done. And I started writing down this stuff, and I go, oh wow, I forgot I did The Dark Crystal. Did you see that one? I played the scientist, and I loved it. It was so great, because the film was finished. Was never on set. I saw the finished film and dubbed the scientist, and I just loved it. It was so well written and so clever. When they offered me Child's Play, I said, I can't be Chucky. Brad Dourif owns that role. Why aren't they asking Brad Dourif? It didn't make sense to me. They said, well, look, just read the script, because there's a significant difference between what we're going to do in this version with what they did with the Brad Dourif version. And of course, no one's paying attention to a word I say. You're watching the dog. Which is fine, I don't care. So I read this thing and I go, oh yeah. In the original, because I went out and I got I'm getting ahead of myself. Because I said, I can't do this because I'm not Brad Dourif. But I read the new version, and instead of Chucky being a doll who had a demonic force placed in him through some supernatural means, this was an artificial intelligence doll where a disgruntled worker purposely turned off the safety mechanism that gave him boundaries. So he started out innocent, like a child learning, but he learns the wrong things. He sees teenagers laughing hilariously at some horrible, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know what movie, but he learns, oh, that's a good thing. Because he's like a child, and he grows, again, more and more malevolent and more scary. And I said, well, now you got me. Because I'm not gonna have to do an impression of Brad Dourif. I can do the innocent Chucky voice and go where the story leads me. I was delighted later to read that Stephen King loved that movie and he praised me. And I thought, wow, it's great. He doesn't follow me on Twitter, but... And I follow people. I follow someone and I'd say, I wonder how long it'll take for them to follow me. And I've done a test. Sometimes if you write a message commenting on something they've said on Twitter and they discover you're following them, they'll follow you back. I haven't tried it with Stephen King yet, but I was really happy to do that. And one thing I thought was, if they don't get the right kid, because the whole thing revolves on this 10, 11, 12-year-old boy, and I don't know who they got, but the film, like I say, like Dark Crystal, it was finished. And I went into, once we agreed that I would do it, I went in and I watched this thing, and that, I feel terrible because I'm blanking on his name, but he absolutely didn't make a false move. I thought, what a relief, because I already agreed to do it, and if there was a problem with that performance, we don't have a movie. And luckily for me, like I say, this kid was off the charts great. But that's another thing. People say, are there people that inspired you? You know, I mean, I was like frozen in awe of Sir Alec Guinness because my mom loved him. And we saw, you know, the Lavender Hill Mob and the Lady Killers and Bridge on the River Kwai. I mean, I had seen so many of his movies by the time I worked with him. Again, I got like choked up, like I couldn't talk around Groucho or George Harrison. And he took me out to dinner, or to lunch one time to meet before we went to Africa. Because the first thing we did for the first movie was to go and do all the stuff in Tunisia. So it was me, Guinness, Kenny, and Tony, the droids, and, you know, Peter Diamond, the stuntman, did the Tusken Raider. But we did all the stuff on Tatooine, and then we came to England. And then about a week after we got back to England, Harrison arrived. And, you know, I mean, George likes to cast people that are so close to what he wants, he doesn't have to do a lot of direction. And I just idolized Harrison. He was like everything that I wanted to be. Cool, sarcastic, a womanizer, everything I'm not. Because when I read the script, I said, I want to play Han Solo or Darth Vader. Those are the two best parts. But so with Guinness, I'm out to lunch with him, and you know, I have the lunch and everything. And I don't know whether it was at lunch or later when I was up in his dressing room talking to him. He apologized for the lavender sink and the lavender toilet. He said, this was Elizabeth Taylor's dressing room. Very recently, I had nothing to do with the lavender facilities. But at one point I was calling him Sir Alec, and he sort of reached out and gently. The third one was really hard. I said, what? He said, I want to be known by my name, not my accolade. I remember saying, what do you want me to call you, Big Al? And he laughed. That's one thing I was always able to do. I could make Sir Alec. I could make Alec laugh. Same with when I worked with Lee Marvin. I was scared of Lee Marvin. I mean, he was a Cat Ballou, and he was a brawler and a tough guy, you know, and I remember the key to Lee Marvin was he loved to laugh, and he was hip. He watched Saturday Night Live, and he read the National Lampoon, and he loved insult humor. So I remember when I found out through other sources, he turned down Jaws. They wanted him for the Robert Shaw part. And so one day we were shooting Big Red One in Israel, and I said, why don't you shut up, Lee? I don't want to take advice from someone who turned down Jaws. He laughed so hard he almost fell off the chair. He said, what did I know? Who want to see a movie about an effing fish? But he didn't say effing. He was harsher than that. But, you know, like we were having dinner at a sidewalk cafe in Israel, and he had been in Paint Your Wagon. He said, can you imagine? They picked the two worst singers in Hollywood, me and Clint Eastwood. And I got a gold record out of it. Because he sang a song called I Was Born Under a Wandering Star, which they released as a single, and it went gold. So he took great delight in the fact that someone that couldn't carry a note in a bucket would get a gold record. And plus he could rub it in Clint's face. You know? That was the added bonus. And so we're sitting at the table, and like I said, he hated praise. So, and you know, sometimes people would ask him for his autograph, and he'd just, F off! You know, again, not more than F. which was shocking to me, you know, because I thought, wow, the people love that, because I mean, he plays a brutal guy and he plays gangsters and all that stuff, and people would love being told to F off by him. So this guy comes up to the table and he goes, Mr. Martin, may I have your autograph? And I could see Lee's blood starting to boil. And the guy said, I just loved when you sang, I was boring under a wandering star. The guy said, Lee said, you got that right, pal, sit down. And I invited the guy to join us for dinner, poured a glass of wine, he stayed with us for hours. So I learned the key to Lee's heart is just cut him a new one every chance you get. But yeah, there's been so many people I've been so lucky to work with. I remember I thought, oh darn, I don't get to work with Peter Cushing. So you've seen photographs where I have the newsboy cap on and I'm in civilian clothes with Peter, because I came in to watch him shoot, and the boots were too uncomfortable and tight. So when they were in close-up, once they got the master, he would change into these slippers, these fluffy slippers. So here's Grand Moff Tarkin being evil Moff Tarkin with the little fluffy slippers. They're pretty little fluffy slippers. And yet, he was also grateful that I knew beyond his Hammer horror films, that he had done Shakespeare and that he played Sherlock Holmes, you know, because I was a true fan. And he couldn't have been more, I mean, he's just one of the most delightful, just the quintessential English gentleman. He would smoke, but he'd wear a glove so that the nicotine smell wouldn't get on someone's hand when he shook their hands. I mean, how considerate is that? Yeah. But I mean, he invited me to lunch, and we talked, and it was great. And you know, Carrie felt the same way. She said, "Well, you get to work with Alec Guinness." But I don't know really how to wrap this up. Let me see how long I've been talking. No extra charge, by the way. You know. Oh, I know there were questions submitted. Yeah, how do you know to feel that an entire new generation have been born and have become fans of your work in Star Wars? I kind of covered that. The answer is good. I feel good. Okay. Oh yeah. Playing the character Luke Skywalker at such a young age, are there noticeable ways in which playing Luke Skywalker showed who you, Mark Hamill, grew up to be? Are there events in your life that you found yourself thinking as Luke Skywalker? The fact of the matter is, Luke is like, he's representational. I mean, it's basically a fairy tale. So, you know, you have the farm boy, you have a princess, you have a pirate, you have a wizard, you have the evil, you know, malevolent, a force of Vader. So he's an idealized person. And I know that I couldn't be as selfless as Luke, I couldn't be as brave as Luke. Not only am I not a pilot, I vaguely don't like flying. You know, I'd rather be in my armchair at home, not wearing pants. The pandemic spoiled me forever. I'm telling you, I had so many meetings over Zoom. I said, you realize if this wasn't the pandemic, I'd have to get dressed, get in the car, drive over to the valley, to Universal, park the car, get a pass, go to the building, go up to the floor where we're having the meeting, wait until the meeting, have the meeting, and then reverse that. 90 minutes each way just in travel and an hour for the meeting. So that's 4 hours. Now I'm having meetings where from the waist up, I'm dressed perfectly respectably. But I've got my red plaid flannel jamming bottoms. Nobody knows that. So, and then I started doing all these cartoons at home. Now I do miss being with the cast. There's nothing like hearing other people's timing. If you're a musician, you want to hear other people's rhythms, what they're adding as an actor. You go, ooh, that's a line reading that you can respond to that you didn't think of yourself. Now, with someone like Kevin Conroy, I know his Batman so well. I didn't want to digress into the losses that we've had. From Carrie to Kevin Conroy to Arlene Sorkin to my dog if he doesn't shut up. But I've retired from Joker only because I got to the point in my career where they call and they say they want you for Joker. I said, is Kevin doing it? And if they said yes, I'd say I'm in. I don't have to read the script. If Kevin's doing it, I'm doing it. They're doing a video and they want you to do Joker. Is Kevin doing it? No, it's so-and-so. I said, well, politely decline. Because over the years, we developed such a affinity for one another. Like I say, by the time we were doing the Arkham games, it was, that was a whole nother level. Because I remember we'd get fan mail when we did the original series saying, why doesn't the Joker kill more people? And I have to say, well, there's standards and practices. That's the censors for television, and it's a children's cartoon. So Joker could be, he was all bark and no bite. He could rage and threaten and do all these things, but he couldn't actually hurt people. You weren't allowed to, there were all these no-nos. No bodies going through plate glass windows, no direct punches to the face, no drugs, no alcohol, no sex or nudity. Bruce Timm one time drew a drawing, one drawing, you might have seen it on the internet, where he broke every single rule that I just listed in one drawing. Batman crashing through the plate glass window holding a naked Harley Quinn with a hypodermic needle flying off and a bottle of booze in her hand. How do you get the punch in? What I'm saying was just massively different when we got to the Arkham games. Because the Arkham games were recommended. Are you still interested? Okay. The Arkham games were for 16 and older. So that meant, in Mask of the Phantasm, we were able to have a death. Still, I think one of the best Batman scripts I've ever read, and I mean the features as well, in terms of economy of storytelling. Not only do you tell this compelling story, but you see the origin of Batman woven into this story. I loved it. I just thought that was just one of the best Batmans ever. But by the time we got to the Arkham games, it was really, they did some stuff where I thought, oh, can we do this? I mean, wow, this is really extreme. But a lot of times, they would record me alone, but like I say, I could hear Kevin in my head. So just before I respond, I'd hear in my head Kevin's voice and know exactly how he would sound. And when we lost him, I mean, I was just crushed. It was just a wonderful, wonderful man. And I met him more fully when we did conventions together, because when we went to work, we developed a relationship because we realized Batman and Joker need each other. There's an episode called The Man Who Killed Batman, written by Paul Dini, where Joker thinks that this small hood, played by Matt Frewer, killed Batman. He's just a two-bit nobody. And Joker totally loses it. His raison d'etre, his reason to be, is to kill Batman. And with Batman out of the picture, you know, he's moping around the house in slippers and, you know, Harley saying, come on, Puddin', go out and rob a bank, you know, it'll make you feel better. And that famous line, without Batman, crime has no punchline. It so defines the character. And I said, no, I wish I'd warmed up a little bit. You gotta warm up to do the Joker, or it's like starting your car on a snowy day. If you just drive off, you're gonna really damage your engine. And like I say, I used the drive into the valley to do the animated series warming up on the freeway. Oh, really? Highs and lows? all of that stuff. Of course, you know, in Los Angeles, if they see a guy driving alone, laughing hysterically and talking to themselves, no big deal, right? I think I already said that. Oh, no, that was at the matinee. But a rabbi and a priest walked into a bar. Oh, no, wait a minute, that's my stand-up act. I'm sorry. Listen, it's been a long day. I've signed my name so many times today. I'm starting to question, wait a minute, are there two M's in M? You know, it's just like automatic. And we discussed, one of my guys that's helping me was named Mark. I said, how do you spell it? He goes, the correct way, with a K.
Yeah.
Besides Mark Singer, I don't know a lot of Marks with a C, but I don't trust them. They should pronounce that name Mars. And I thought, when I started out as an actor, I wonder if I should change my spelling of Mark to M-A-R-Q-U-E. Is that a little pretentious? Just maybe a little pretentious, yeah, okay. No, we, like I say, Arkham Asylum is a whole different sort of thing. And you know, before we get off people that we've lost, because I mean, I still think of Carrie in the present tense. I'm sorry, you know. She's so alive in our hearts. She's so vibrant in her contribution when she was here. And I remember, I've told this before, it's funny to know, because, you know, they'd pull me aside and they'd say, Kirshner wants to meet you in your dressing room. It's like, uh-oh, you know, it's like going to the principal's office. And they said, okay, remember in the script, when Darth Vader says to you, you don't know the truth. Obi-Wan killed your father. And we filmed it just like that. That's what Dave said, that's what everyone in the crew heard, and I did it just like you see in the movie. No, that's not true, that's impossible. Within 3 days, one of the extras who had heard that recording leaked to the newspapers, and on the front page in a little box it said, Guinness head baddie in Star Wars 2, because it hadn't been announced as Empire Strikes Back yet. And I was delighted because Kirshner pulled me aside. He said, okay, I'm gonna tell you something. George knows, I know, and now you're gonna know. So if it ever leaks, we'll know it's you. What? We're gonna take out Obi-Wan killed your father and have him say, I am your father. Again, I was just as shocked as anybody that saw it. I said, really? Is he really my father? He said, well, read the scene, because when he tells you, Obi-Wan killed your father, and I go, no, that's not true. Search your soul, you know it to be true. And Luke now, having vestiges of the Force, can look inward and go, he's not lying. So, at one point, I was the only one that knew, and I was really scared. Because I said, I talk in my sleep. What if Mary Lou hears and tells one of her girlfriends? But they told us one day, we want Carrie and you to come up to the office. We're going to tell you something. And so we're sitting there, and they said, okay, we're in the scene at the end of one of them. It must have been the third one. What was it? Return of the Jedi. We're going to reveal that Luke and Leia are brother and sister. And I mean, we were both stunned, and the first thing I said was, wait a minute. If Princess Leia is my sister, does that make me royalty? And Carrie, without missing a beat, went, no. I said, all right, I'm just asking. But she really relished being a princess, let me tell you. Because in real life, her father was Debbie Fisher, her mother was Debbie Reynolds. She really was Hollywood royalty in that community where, you know, because My parents were Bill and Sue Hamill. Yeah, okay. So, but she was very protective of that. And I never let it go, you know. For years afterwards, I'd always say, well, you know, sure, let's see. Queen Amidala, Lord Vader, Princess Leia, come on, I've got to have some sort of title. She'd grind her teeth and say, Joe, you are so immature. Because I loved her, obviously, and she was hilarious, and I could make her laugh. Remember going back to leveling the playing field by making people laugh? I said to her, you know, we would be back and forth like real brothers and sisters, where we could be as close as could be and spending time in each other's trailer, and then we have big fights where she says, I don't even want to talk to you anymore. Get out of my trailer. I go, with pleasure. Slam the door, you know. And we wouldn't speak for 3 or 4 days, and then, you know, like real brothers and sisters, what were we fighting about again? I don't know. So she was someone, like I say, that touched us all, and maybe it's just not wanting to face reality, but to me, she's very much in the present. Kevin Conroy, the same thing. I mean, I realize now I don't have my partner and there's so many great jokers out there. I mean, there's, I don't know, half a dozen. I thought, wow, what a great version of I never thought of doing it the way Jeff Bennett does, or the way Kevin Michael Richardson does, or on and on and on, Michael Emerson. I mean, so many great versions. But I should go, but I'll have to tell you, I'll never forget when I first discovered Arlene Sorkin's contribution, because in many episodes, Joker would have thugs, you know, sidekicks, yeah, boss, you know, those types. And he had a female sidekick in one. She didn't even have a name. I think she was called Joker's Henchwench, because there was Joker's Henchman 1, Joker's Henchman 2, Joker's Henchman 3, Joker's Henchwench. So it was a female, but not with no name. And Arlene comes in, and Paul Dini and her were close friends. He knew her work from the soap that she was on, and they had a relationship outside of just being, you know, involved in the Batman things. Anyway, we sit down to record, and she opened her mouth and came out with that vacant. It's like Judy Holliday in Born Yesterday, if you ever see that movie. Confident and just clueless at the same time, and adorable. I mean, and able to send out dark vibes, like this girl's got something wrong up here. But I fell out of my chair. I said, wait, on break, I said to Tim and Andrea and everybody in the booth, I said, what? We've got to have this woman back. She's unbelievably great. Now, I didn't have any creative, you know, it's not like they had to listen to me, but they all loved her. And the next time she came back, she had the name Harley Quinn, and they developed the outfit and everything. And what made us all so proud was she was one of the few characters, like 3 or 4 others, that became part of DC canon, where she became accepted into, it wasn't the other way around, where we were taking from them, they took from us. And as you know, she's become what she's become, a real icon in the comic book and movie world. And ironically enough, as I leave you, my wife in the new film Life of Chuck is Mia Sara. Now, you might have seen her as a teenager when she was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. She plays Ferris's girlfriend. She's delightful. And I told her, this must be a May-December romance, because I looked it up on my IMDb. I'm 16 years older than her. But nevertheless, she's playing my wife. And I discovered while we were filming, after Arlene Sorkin, she's the first person to play Harley Quinn. And she played it in live action. And as she told me, you were in the episode. I said, what are you talking about? There was a show called Birds of Prey. And they asked me, there was another actor that was 6'2" and look the part of the Joker. Like I said before, I can't get the part of the Joker on camera. I don't have the right look. I'm not tall enough. I don't have the bone structure, whatever it is. Guess with their ears, not their eyes. So they had Joker in one episode of this show where she played Harley Quinn, come through the door, and I think he's soft focused, and I think he's got a gun. All I knew is I came in and I dubbed 2 or 3 lines of the Joker in that episode. And it kind of was shocking to me that it's a small world. And by the way, the last question here is, when are you going to shut the F up?